What's up, everyone, and welcome into a special edition of the Buffalo Sports Collective. Today, we have the pleasure of talking to the man that does it all for lacrosse, including writing, podcasting, breaking news, literally anything that happens in lacrosse. This guy has his hands on it. Adam Levy. Adam, thanks for jumping on with us. How's it going?
Oh, thank you so much for having me, and very happy to be joining you after just having been in Buffalo in Bandit Land, which, as we all know, one of the most incredible atmospheres in all of sports, not just the National Lacrosse League. So thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I've been meaning to get you on for a while doing these interview series, so if I found a perfect time to get you in during the
Yeah,
playoffs. But we're into round two of the NLL playoffs. In
yeah,
one word, kind of how would you describe round one that just happened last weekend?
yeah. I mean, having been to half of the games, I mean that. I don't think that anyone. I mean, it was a historic night in Buffalo to have only 9 total goals, and I don't think anyone expected that much of a defensive battle. But the games overall were fantastic. So many takeaways from really all of those battles, and unfortunate for teams like the Calgary Roughnecks, who, obviously made the move for Nick Rose and hoping that that would put them over the edge. But Halifax is just so talented. And now we're going to get to see them in the semifinals. And for Saskatchewan, they're number 2 for a reason. They had you guys tied for the best record in the league, only second place because of tie breaks. And Vancouver, I mean, look, I've loved what Rochester has been doing in the second half of the season, and I don't think they got enough credit for what they did in the first half, considering how much of a grueling schedule that was. I mean, they were playing the best of the best, and were almost, at 500 at that point. So really impressive there. Yeah, so, but I think that Vancouver, really showed how good they can be. And I think that one of the main takeaways for there, and I know we'll get into Vancouver a little bit, later, but it's great to see kind of guys like Dylan McIntosh, people that we don't normally talk about as kind of key players, really stepping into a huge role over this the second half here. And obviously Christian Del Bianco has been phenomenal. And then it was an amazing weekend of lacrosse. Fans were super excited. I mean, I know we all would have loved better attendance numbers all around. And I know it can be difficult to sell tickets. And, each of these places, they're their own independent businesses. They can charge what they want for tickets. Maybe they might have learned a little bit something about how much they're going to charge next time. Yeah. But what a weekend it was.
So, Bandits survived a thrilling 5-4 win over the Seals on Friday night. You were in attendance, like you said, lowest scoring game in NLL playoff or regular season history. But do you think that the defensive effort that was shown by the Seals kind of told the rest of the league, especially the Warriors that are coming up here, anything that maybe they haven't seen or known in the past? Because, I mean, they seemed, at least this early season in the back to back, and especially in this game, that they were able to at least keep the Bandits' offense at bay as much as they could, but especially in the game on Friday night.
100%. And I do have to. We have to give credit to Christopher Riglieri,
Yeah.
young kid who played so well, really stepped up in the moment. I mean, Buffalo didn't score in the second half. I mean, I think this
Insane.
was also the first time that a team was held scoreless in the second half of a game and still won. um, so, I mean, really, this was a phenomenal defensive performance. And, watching it, a guy like Zach Currier, like, I mean, if you want to see what an MVP performance looks like on defense and in transition, I mean, there you go. This guy was everywhere, doing everything his team needed. Like, they were highlight reel loose ball getting plays. Like, unbelievable the way he was jumping on the floor and really, fighting to get the ball away from Buffalo. Also, really good to see that the refs were letting him play. And it was very interesting to hear Coach Tavares in the post-game press conference say, look, once we saw that they were letting them play, we said to our defense, we're like, look, they're giving you a little bit of leeway. Go for it. Test to see how far that's going to go. There were some more penalties in the second half. They obviously have to reel things in, but to see that kind of grittiness, that old school style of National Lacrosse League box action was great. and you could tell that the fans loved it. And of course, as you know, the Buffalo fans were irate that more penalties weren't called. But it was very interesting, and I think that we'll have to wait and see what happens with Dylan Robinson to see if he is being handed another suspension for a high hit at the end. Unfortunate that happened for him. I think that there won't be another suspension, but obviously Brian Lemon and the National Lacrosse League will review that. But yeah, it was really just a phenomenal game of lacrosse, and it really also showed that just defense can be exciting. We don't need goals to be happy.
Yeah, that first half was fantastic. I mean, no penalties called. Even after the game, I turned to my wife, who's sitting next to me. I'm like, how does Oreg have to feel that he let in 5 goals, nothing in the second half, and ends up with a result like that?
Yep.
It's so disappointing. But we'll fast forward to the next game the next night. Drew Hutchison held down the net the last 2.5 games. And in Calgary's game, he made 38 of 50 saves. I mean, Halifax's net has kind of been the biggest thing that has stopped most people from diving fully in and believing, okay, Halifax, they're right up there in tier 1 of being able to win a championship and on everybody's bingo board of this is the team that can do it. But has what we've seen recently from Hutchison been enough for people to actually fully buy in and believe that this is the team that can get it done, because they seem like they have the pieces everywhere else?
Yeah, I mean, I would 100% agree. They are one of those teams. When I look at the Bandits, when I look at the Rush and these teams, they're so complete all over the floor, and it's phenomenal to see what Halifax is doing. And I'm glad you pointed out the other games that Hutchison has been in. I mean, yeah, you look at the game against San Diego back on April 5th, stopping 39 of 44 shots. Then earlier against Toronto on March 7th, stopping 14 of 16 shots, filling in for Warren Hill. I mean, he's been really, really reliable lately. And, he's one of those interesting cases where he's not young like Origlieri. He's 27 years old, but he hasn't really had those opportunities, and he's really gotten those chances now, and it took him a little bit of time, and he's still, not there yet. But that is understandable for a guy who's been around the league for a while and not getting those regular reps. But I've been incredibly impressed with him, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see what does happen in between the pipes for Halifax, because obviously with the very, very sad and unfortunate tragedy in Warren Hill's family and losing his mother, when does he come back? Does he come back? Obviously, thoughts and prayers to the whole family, and, mental health and being with family is always first and foremost. But it is a storyline that we'll need to keep watch. But I do think that, Hutchison is proving enough that, he's not saying I'm gonna screw this up for you guys. He's like, I'm gonna give everything that I can, and he's doing, I think, maybe a little bit better than people expected he would.
Yeah, I mean, as long as he's making the saves that you're expecting him to make, I think Halifax has the other pieces that should be able to overtake where Chiliano might be a tad bit or a little bit more above Hutchison and net. But the Rush were able to reach that magic number. I had Pat Gregoire on the show last week, and I went, is 10 the magic number? And they reached 10, and they got it done. But Jake Boudreau was fantastic. I mean, 4 goals and a 5-point night. Mike Messenger made a goal or scored a goal that I don't even think some players in the league would even think about trying, let alone being able to score. But was the transition game for the Rush the main reason that they were able to advance, or do you think there was another aspect that I might be missing?
Well, I think that the transition game all season long has been phenomenal, and I think that that's why Jake Boudreau has been in pretty much everyone's conversation for transition player of the year. But, Mike Messenger, what he does as well, I mean, they have tried their best to copy their strategy of building from the back forward, and having a team that's athletic, that's quick, that's physical, and that does kind of all develop from the back forward. And then when they're in transition, giving those multitude of great shooters, Robert Church, and good to see Clark Walter get on the board there. But yeah, Ryan Keenan stepping up as a captain. I mean, it really is when they're able to run and gun and really be physical and push the ball up. It is a game changer, and it's the same for Halifax. And It's going to be a very interesting, very physical, very fast series. I mean, you've got teams that really trying to prove themselves. And, for Frank, though, I would say in between the pipes, Frank Scigliano, he has been another one of those difference makers. Like, for him to have a good enough game where he moves on, he's one of those guys that at every stage of his career, he has not, unfortunately, been able to win the championship for his team. But this could be the year that happens. And he's having enough big games and having enough big moments that it is helping Saskatchewan to those key victories. And I think that when he's stopping the ball, that also gives the defense and the transition more confidence. They know that they can run out and say, like, okay, like we've got the faith in that guy. It loosens things up. Think about it from the standpoint like what Christian Del Bianco has done with the Warriors, just being able to get up the floor more often, get the ball out of their half. It's been significant. So I think Frank needs a lot of credit, as well as the defense in front of him.
Yeah, and I mean, it's every week he's making a highlight reel save.
Yeah.
That one that he made with his stick the other night was insane. But
Yeah.
the final game went down in Vancouver. Again, another game that you were in attendance to. You're flying all over the continent. But the team is now 7-0 since the trade deadline and bringing in Christian Del Bianco. But to me, it's been the offense that's been the biggest story. What have you seen from this team that's been able to go from one of those ones that was one of the worst offenses into the league to one of the most dangerous units? And I've been joking multiple times now. All you had to do was trade a forward and bring in a goaltender, and you fixed the offense. But it's been electric, the turnaround that they've been able to do, and it's led by Keegan Ball.
Yeah, I mean, Keegan Ball is phenomenal, and I was able to ask him, kind of joked around a little bit, but, Keegan, I've known him for years, and I was able to ask him, like, how are you as a legit superstar in this league able to just stay so composed in these moments? And like he was in this Zen state in the post game press conference where I was like, dude, you just had like a massive game in a one or done playoff situation. And he was just like, yeah, we're just gonna be calm and we're just gonna like go out there and do our thing. Like coach knows what he's talking about. And I'm like, all right. But like to have him and Adam Charlambides really develop into an awesome one-two punch, and then to have this kind of this backup support from Dylan McIntosh and Ryan Martell, it's good to see Ryan kind of starting to hit the back of the net a little bit more, because last year he had a huge breakout year, but this season it was a lot slower. And, you need that supplemental offense in order to be challenging with the best clubs out there. And particularly on the other side, when you had Rochester, who is, such a high volume shooting team and has so many weapons on that side. But yeah, Christian Del Bianco, phenomenal. The Warriors offense, clicking. Coach Malosky has them dialed in and focused. Like he really has transformed this club in a way that is very special, and it really is just the beginning for what they're going to be doing in Vancouver. So I'm very excited. I had to be there. Sorry, you might hear my dog.
No, you're good. I got 6 in my house right now too.
And so yeah, it was phenomenal. And like the city of Vancouver has not had a home playoff victory in pro lacrosse ever before this past weekend, and so. Really, really cool for them to have that moment. It meant a lot to Coach Malosky. It meant a lot to those guys. Like 50% of the roster, and include the coaching staff, is from the Metro Vancouver area. And so it's really special to see what they're building there. And I think that it's going to be a huge battle and challenge for Buffalo. Vancouver won earlier this season. And, when I asked Ian McKay and some of the coaching staff in the post-game press conference for Buffalo, I was like, well, if you face Vancouver, what's that's going to be like? And, Kurt Malosky and Christian Del Bianco, their name came up a lot. Ian McKay said, well, since Del Bianco's come off the couch, he's been phenomenal for them. And, it was also interesting because I then asked Christian the next day, I said, well, what does it mean to you that, they have so much respect for you and maybe a little bit of fear about what you're capable of? And he was like, well, it's nice to have some respect, but like this guy is a talent. And, when your opposition knows how good you are and they have to plan around you, like that's the ultimate sign of respect.
Yeah, I was in the press conference after Vancouver beat Buffalo, and they asked Ian McKay, they're like, "Yeah, what did you think of Christian Del Bianco's performance?" And he goes, "Yeah, I wish he would have stayed on the couch another couple weeks." But
Yeah, 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 yeah.
but to me, the NFL has Adam Schefter, the NLL has Adam Levy. And what about this game of lacrosse made you fall in love with it and makes you be able to do and be who you are for this sport?
It's a good question. I mean, I think that everything changed for me when I decided, and it was a very, very difficult decision for me to step away from working directly for the league. I had been with the league in one capacity or another since 2016, and had held very different positions working, highlight clipping, stuff like that, obviously being a lead writer. Um, and then, feeling like I needed to do things on my own. I had developed a lot of relationship, and I have so much respect for so many of my colleagues and my peers. And it was something that I honestly I talked to my wife about for the entire season. I was not sure what I was going to do. It was a very difficult decision, and I think that once I stepped away from the league, it kind of opened the door for me to be a little bit more candid and have conversations with people who maybe didn't want to talk about certain things before, and now we could have those conversations. But it also, I think that I'm on the side of many of us, is that we want the league to grow. We want it to be the next major league, and there's so much potential for it to do that. It is not just a talking point when everyone says, "Oh, well, if you watch the game, like you're going to be hooked immediately, and it's going to be phenomenal." There are some sports out there. What was it? I saw one thing on like ESPN or some kind of clip where it's called roof ball, where they were like throwing a football on a roof and had to catch it for points. This was like being streamed as like a competitive thing. And I was like, that doesn't captivate me the same as box lacrosse.
Right.
Um, but yeah, there's so much potential here, and I just wanted to make it feel like we were treating it as one of those next major leagues, because the guys that play this game and the coaches who are on the bench, they are giving 100% effort, and that's knowing that a lot of them have other jobs. That's knowing that they have families, and that maybe they don't live in Market or whatever, and that's knowing what they get paid, and they're treating it like they are those top athletes in other leagues, and they deserve that respect so much of us treating them like true professional athletes, and that means the good and the bad. And I think that that's something that I think not enough people want to get their head around the fact that, we have to be open and honest. We have to live in a world of truth and transparency and things that are going on. And even if they're difficult to talk about, and even if we don't want them to happen, that it's part of life, it's part of the sports business. And I'm just glad to be able to share more of the truth with people, because I feel like that's just what we need as a sport.
So we got Halifax versus Saskatchewan Saturday night, and you already tweeted out and broke the news, but the first game is going to be played in the Nest. Now, there's the whole league aspect of it, so I'll change the question a little bit. Do you think this gives the advantage to Saskatchewan having games 2 and 3 at home, or do you think it's an advantage to Halifax being able to play game 1 at home and knowing, okay, we only have to steal one from Saskatchewan on the road?
I think it is a huge advantage for Halifax, and I think that no matter who wins that series, if that series goes to 3 games, whoever wins that is going to be behind the 8 ball,
Yep.
because they'll have played 2 games the week before the finals are going to start, and then so that's like 3 games in 7 days, potentially. Whereas on the other side, Buffalo or Vancouver, they could finish the finals this coming weekend, and then they'll have a week off, and then they'll be, and look, I know that this has happened before, and people have jumped on that, But it's not about there's two things here that are important to know. It's one that we can go back to the way that it has been. That's fine. But then let's have that on both series. You can't have one series have it one way and the other on the other, and we're all just trying to please or make it work for whoever it needs to work. Like, there are, from what I've heard, there are ways that this could have been avoided. As I know that he can be a bit abrasive sometimes. But, Mike Carvelis had a great point where it was like the NLL originally sent out its schedule format, saying that it would be 2 games on one week, the first weekend, and then a third on the second weekend, back in April, like early April, like a month ago. And then that brings up the other point, is that this was not some long, like, agreed upon thing. This happened this weekend where it was a shakeup. Like, literally, people were finding out on both sides that this was changing within the last 48 hours. So, the fact that that is an issue or that even came up at this time, not great. But yeah, it gives Halifax a huge advantage because the Nest is, they're trying to build what you guys have in Bandit Land, and the sellouts and the crowd and the passion, it's working for them. And to win game 1 of any 3-game series, that puts a lot of pressure on Saskatchewan, who, again, a great team and can win 2 games. But to beat Halifax on back-to-back nights 2 times in a row, like, that's hard. Like, I don't know that not many teams can do that in general. So, I think it gives a huge advantage to Halifax, and it's unfortunate because, the Rush played very hard all season they were hoping to have game 1 and get that advantage. And now they don't have that. So that is unfortunate. So, it is what it is. The Rush aren't going to use it as, something where they're going to be like, woe is us, whatever. They're well coached, Derek Keenan and Jimmy Quinlan, and they're going to go out and play the best ball that they can every time. And I think that, it's going to be a great series regardless of what happens. And I think it'll show a lot of people, if they can go out and beat Halifax, that they mean business.
So besides the home away matchup, what else would you say is the biggest storyline going into this best of 3 series between these 2 teams?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we kind of touched on one of the talking points, which is the goaltending for Halifax, obviously, depending on who is in between the pipes. If it's Drew Hutchison or Warren Hill is a difference, and then it goes back to also another talking point is, can Frank continue to play well enough where he's, winning games for his team in the postseason? Because, historically that wasn't the case. And look, we just saw with Nick Rose where, he's had the same trouble and that didn't really work out for him. So, I think that that's going to be a key matchup. And, I think that, for Halifax, they've got Randy Stotts, who's playing so well, being able to move the ball around. They've really also used this rallying point around Cody Jamieson, and again, a very sad and tragic, unfortunate incident with his son and his health concerns. And they want to win for him, and the team wants to win for him, and he's been playing really well through it all. It's an incredibly moving storyline, and I think that that's definitely driving things as well. Jake Withers, phenomenal. Ryan Terafenko, phenomenal. I think it really is going to come down to who is going to be better at stopping that kind of transition and allowing things to get really run and gun, because both teams have such forceful and talented transition games that if you let a team get running, both figuratively and literally, I think that that team is going to gain a lot of confidence. And Saskatchewan is now going to need to make sure to quiet the Nest crowd in that game 1, because they don't want momentum to build in game 1 so that they're further on the back foot coming into games 2 and 3.
So we'll switch to the game that's going to be starting on Friday night in Bandit Land. Warriors versus Buffalo. This matchup a lot of people were hoping this was a finals type of matchup, and we're
Yeah.
just getting it early, so we're still getting it. We're just getting it a little bit early, but
Yeah.
both teams, I mean, they're to me, they're polar opposites to an extent here. Now, you already tweeted out Josh Byrne is expected to be playing, but if his injury is serious enough that it affects how he's going to be playing in this game, which I don't know how it can't, if we already saw how he was playing on Friday, and it's only a week to whatever it might be, if his ankle, knee, whatever it is, what player needs to step up for Buffalo to be able to win this weekend and be able to reach their fifth straight finals if Josh Byrne can't be 100% Josh Byrne?
Well, I think that you saw it so well in that San Diego game, and it's why Buffalo is so good, is that when Josh isn't scoring, when Dane isn't scoring, like this was the first time, and I know Josh was out for a little bit, but like first time in like 3 years that he hadn't scored in the playoffs. And so they still won. They only scored 5 goals, and that's because of the grittiness of Ian McKay and everything he did on the floor. You know, what Nick Weiss did, you know, what Steve Priolo was doing, and Paul Dawson blocking those shots. Like that has been key all season long. The Bandits have so many weapons that they just find ways to win it in, you know, no matter what the circumstance. It will also be interesting to see what happens in terms of Kyle Matisse, who did not play this past game, a big body who can kind of play in transition and be kind of a versatile tool for Buffalo. I think would be great to have him back. I did see him after the game, and I know that he's feeling better. The team will have to evaluate, and I'll touch in with the coaching staff as the week goes on to see what his status is. With Josh, it does sound like it was kind of like a sprain thing, and you know he's super competitive now. The thing with Josh is his footwork and his finesse is so key to his game, and if he doesn't have that 100%, you know that can limit him. But also, he's a phenomenal passer and a great vision. So, you know, if he's not able to attack the net like he normally can, you know, he can dish the ball around. But yeah, having that supporting cast step up, whether it's Tehoka, we'll have to again see what happens with Chris Cloutier, who didn't play this past game. But you know, to have Tehoka back was very good. It's just, you know, you could go up and down that roster and say how valuable everyone is. Ron John has been a great addition on defense. Like it's just been phenomenal to see how they can stick things out even when the going gets tough.
So, excluding the Josh Byrne injury, what would you say is the biggest storyline going into this game?
That is a good question. I mean, I would say that this is Buffalo's redemption, so to speak. This is their big challenge, you know, because of the second half of the season that they've been having. It comes down to, you know, are they going to be the Buffalo Bandits that we saw the last 2 years and in the first half of the season? You know, and then on the flip side, this is Vancouver's moment. This is, and I think it came earlier than maybe some people expected. We knew Kurt Milosky was going to build this team into a contender, but what they've been doing, especially with Del Bianco in the net, like I had said when they beat Buffalo earlier in the season, and it was their 3rd win in a row, that was one of the most important victories in franchise history, because that was kind of like, okay, we won the first 2 games with Del Bianco, but now we beat a juggernaut in Buffalo in front of that crowd. That was a we are here moment, and I think that we will look back on that. And if Vancouver can win again in Buffalo, you know, to do it once, okay, you could say it's a fluke. To do it twice and then the second time be in the playoffs, you know, that would say, okay, you know, you got to watch out for Vancouver now and in the future, because that is a dangerous team, and I think the writing is on the wall. It's one of the worst kept secrets in the league. They are definitely going to be getting better in the years to come. There are a lot of guys who want to be in Vancouver and on the West Coast, and they want to be playing for Kurt Milosky. It's kind of like how people want to play in Buffalo and play for Steve Diedrich and John Tavares. So I think that, you know, for Vancouver, it's, you know, can they solidify this as a moment to say, we are contenders, we deserve to be here?
Yeah, it's terrifying that this is year 2 of his 5-year rebuild out in
Yeah.
Vancouver. It's I think it got escalated a little bit, but we'll
Yeah.
move forward. It's been a hot button topic on our show, and I'm glad you're here. And you can say if it's Buffalo bias coming out of us or not, if it's a bigger league issue that we
Mhm.
helmets. Helmets is a big
Mhm.
conversation for the Buffalo
Yes.
Sports Collective right now, and it's kind of got us playing. If a helmet comes off, it's supposed to be a penalty if the player plays without it in the game. But it's
Yeah.
so up to interpretation for the refs right now because in the
Yeah.
game, it happened 3 times this weekend.
Yeah.
Willie lost his helmet and immediately ran to the bench. That gave
Yeah.
San Diego a 5-on-4 opportunity, even though a defender knocked off his helmet. Earlier before that, Belter had his helmet knocked off by
Mhm.
Banesh, and he played for a couple seconds, put it back on, and then got the penalty for it. Now,
Yeah.
flash forward the next night, Vancouver with Keegan Ball takes 7 or 8 steps, makes the pass without a helmet, and that's not called a penalty. So
Yeah.
it's up to the ref's discretion. Is this
Mhm.
Buffalo bias coming out of us on our show, or is this something that the league kind of has to look at to address and maybe shake up the rule? Because I get the reason behind the rule, it's player safety,
Yeah.
but it almost feels like if a helmet comes off of a defender because of an offensive player, it kind of gives the major benefit to the offensive team right there because either you're getting a 5-on-4 chance right there with the defender running off the field, or you get a penalty for the player playing without a helmet.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily Buffalo bias, and especially because it did happen a couple times. Like, it's very front of mind, and I know that, it's happened previous. What I would say, though, and where the rule needs to be more enforced, is that it's on the players should have their chin straps on
Yeah,
a lot tighter.
which is a rule. Yeah, they're just
Yeah.
not enforcing that part. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that that's really what it comes down to. I mean, the game's going to be physical and it's going to be tough. And yes, I know it's a little bit of sportsmanship to not have that on as tight as possible. But I mean, I think that's a little bit on the players for not doing that. Yeah, it's on the refs for not calling it as much. So it's one of those things that, yeah, we'll see how that is kind of called going forward. Now, you mentioned with the Vancouver incident, obviously you don't want to have one side have favoritism than the other. Hopefully it's called evenly in that series. But just as a kind of shorter answer, I think it is on the players to have those chin straps tighter, and then for the refs to really be enforcing that.
Yeah, we tried not to get on the refs. We actually gave them high praise this last game because I
Yeah.
thought that they refed it perfectly in this one. It just seems it's also weird that the league puts out a video complimenting a move that's technically a penalty, but that's a story for another day. But
Yeah.
final two for you here.
Well,
If
I
you
did
were,
want to ask you
yeah,
if I
yeah,
can about the refs because I've been there and I know I'm not a Buffalo guy and some people they kind of got my sarcasm, kind of didn't, but I'm also just trying to understand. So you guys do this "you suck" chant, and I know
I'm
that.
on the opposite end. Yeah, it's not me.
Okay. And so, like, it seems like sometimes, yeah, you do it for the goalie, but there were instances. There was the instance during, I think, the major penalty call. I think it was against Dylan Robertson, where they were saying you suck to uh, the referees. And so I was saying, what? Like, that can't be for the referees. And people were like, no, it's only for the goalies. So when is it used, and is it universally used?
So it seems like I don't know if this is a newer one. I would have to look back, but they start playing the I don't know if it's Rocky music or whatever it was, and then the fans start chanting "You suck" to the refs during a
Hmm.
penalty call like that.
Yeah.
So that part is there. There's also the chanting of they chant the goalie's name and then "You suck," and I think
Right.
it was Justin Getty when they were playing Albany. He was
Yeah.
amazing
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
the orchestration. I since me and Phil have been up in the box for 2 years now,
Hmm.
and Phil's a lot more hyped up when he's in his seat, and I went, okay, you got to be able to, especially when you're up in the box, take off your bias.
Yeah.
But it's such a weird feeling being able to be in the arena and like in the bowl,
Yeah.
seeing the game and being a fan there, but then going up into the box is such a culture change.
Yeah, yeah. It's nice for Preston to get a little bit of a cameo there. He was
Oh
there.
yeah, I saw your mention should be in the Borelli Award.
Yeah, I mean his picks are good. Actually, we have to do those picks tonight.
He crushed me.
But yeah, so I think could you repeat the question? He was just sneaking over
Oh
for.
no, no, I was just saying that it's from being up in the box. It's so different
Yeah.
than being down on the in the bowl that I had explained to Phil, I think it was when we were facing Albany last year, and Buffalo was getting all these penalties, and he's just going, the refs are out to get Buffalo. The refs
Yeah.
are out to get
Yeah.
Buffalo. And I'm going up in the box. I'm like, no, Albany's baiting them. Like, you got to
Yeah.
take off your Buffalo bias hat there.
No, yeah, and look, I get it. Home crowd, like you want the
Yeah.
calls to go your way. You guys are the most passionate fans in the league. There's a lot of teams that, as I said earlier, are trying to come for that title, but right now you guys are supreme there. Like, but I do think we have to be realistic sometimes. And again, it goes back to what I was saying before: is that we just have to sometimes be just able to have an honest conversation and say, like, sometimes we do things we shouldn't. Sometimes we make mistakes. Look, they happen all the time. And I can appreciate fandom, but we also don't need to defend things that are either indefensible or you're just doing it because you want to show good faith to whoever. Like, sometimes things happen. It's just how it is. Now, it is interesting. I think I broke down the data once on like power play calls and penalty calls. And I think that part of the issue that other fans who aren't Buffalo fans see is that, you guys aren't getting slighted more than other teams. So it's like if the data is literally showing that you're not getting screwed by the refs, it's hard to have sympathy for some of the calls and some of the upset because, it is not skewed.
Yeah, I've been avoiding social media at all costs, whether the Buffalo Bandits win or lose, because it's always somebody else's fault. I'm like, guys, the league's not out to get you. It's fine. Like if they were all looking to hunt down the Buffalo Bandits, then I think there would be more statistics out there that prove otherwise. But yeah, we avoid social media as much as possible, especially when they lose. It's
well, look, and I get a lot of heat for some of the comments I make for Buffalo, and again, I'm just saying it how it is sometimes, and it's tough. And when you've been so successful, it's hard to hear someone say things that might, hurt a little bit, but it doesn't make them any less true sometimes. I think, and I'm mostly referencing my Bandits Unfun tweet and how that kind of took off. It's better for the league when there's more teams that are seriously competing for the championship. That's just a fact. It's great for Buffalo, and it is a lot of fun for Buffalo, and rightly so. One of the few teams in all of sports history to possibly win 3 in a row. So be proud of that. Be excited about that. But I can guarantee you that that's not fun for the rest of the league.
Yeah, like we always try to tell on our show, like if there's something negative we got to say, we're going to say it. If there's something positive we're going to say, we're going to say it. If you're coming here to hear us just, spring everything's roses with the Buffalo Bandits, there's other podcasts that will do that. That's not kind of what we're going to be doing. But final two, if you were the commissioner for the day, what would be number one thing on your to-do list? And you can't just say, get the CBA done.
Yeah, I mean, the CBA, that is going to be front of mind for everybody in about a month's time. So, bated breath for what happens with that. If I was commissioner for the day, I do think that there are the steps to which we're getting seen in media and on ESPN. Like, it would be nice, like, to have us on major channels more often. It's nice that TSN is really, it seems like it's been great for the Canadian fans, but more games on ESPN would be good. More kind of promotion for them. But if I was commissioner, I would just have more longer term plans. Like, if I was being realistic, I've kind of floated out the idea, and I know it's a little rash, or a little bit drastic, but I would want to relocate teams and make them more kind of above the 49th parallel, and kind of have a more Canadian-based or definitely northern-based league, and kind of transition towards that. And then I would also probably want to, and then use those unboxed initiatives as more of a growth concept, and then eventually move into the States later on. And, it's the league has so much potential that if you do a drastic change of plans and you do it well, like it could pay off big time. But that's something that obviously can't be done in a day. But yeah, I would say that would be probably, those are the things that I would focus on.
So, final question, and I've kind of made it a staple here that it's something to do. It's something unrelated to the guest, and it's unrelated to the sport. So, you got 8 hours to prepare. But then for the next 24 hours, you're being hunted down by all the special forces in the U.S.
Yeah.
If you're able to evade them for one full day, you get $1 million.
Yeah.
Where are you hiding? And don't worry, they're not listening to this. Or are you going to be constantly moving around?
Yeah, I mean, I would be constantly moving around. I think that would make me a lot less anxious than waiting around. Like I'm not good with like scary movies or scary roller coasters or anything like that, but it's all because of like the waiting and the anticipation of like, oh, what's going to come. If I'm moving and I've got control of everything and I'm like being like practical and thinking forward, like that would just make me feel better. So I'd definitely hop around a bunch. Wouldn't go anywhere near a boat or water because that would also freak me out. So plane would be good. I love trains, but they've been delayed a lot, so I don't know how reliable they'd be. But yeah, moving around, hopping plane to plane, figuring it out. This team that's hunting me down, I'm sure they're super talented. I do not think that I would win the $1 million. I can say that right now. But yeah, plane would be my method of transportation.
Now, let me know if you think I've been known to say a bunch of stupid things. I'm not the brightest person, but let me know if this is so stupid it might work.
Okay.
What if I just camp out in my own bedroom for 24 hours? That might be the last place they're going to look, right?
It would be not their, well, actually it would either be their first place that they check, or if it wasn't the first place they would check, they would eventually go to it because they would have somebody thinking like you and they'd be like, oh, well, let's just check it, and also they might want to go there because there might be a lot of evidence and things that could help them find you from there. So I mean, I wouldn't say that would be the best, but I think that really either way, I have so much faith in kind of those search and rescue and military teams that I think that you would be hard pressed to really evade them for that long.
That's fair. I just figured it would be so obvious they wouldn't
check
there. But yeah, that kind of makes sense, like for clues. But Adam, that's all I got for you. Thank you for joining us on the Buffalo Sports Collective. Do you want to let everyone know? I mean, they already should be following you, but where they can find you, the podcast, and pretty much anything else you want to plug for listeners.
Yeah, I mean, this is a bit of a long list. I try and be a little bit of everywhere. I mean, on Twitter, it's Adam Levi, LAX. And then on Instagram, it's Adam_Levi_LAX. And then you could listen to the Lacrosse Matrix podcast, which you can find on Spotify and on the Lacrosse Culture Daily podcast network on their website, alongside OTCB and Lacrosse Classified. And then, my weekly show, with Steven Stamp, which we started for Inside Lacrosse, Inside the World of Box Lacrosse, which comes out at the end of every week, where we talk about all these hot button issues and kind of share our perspective. That's been phenomenal. Love working with Stamper. He's in Prague right now, calling some box tournaments out there. So, but yeah, that's something to check out. Weekly columns at InsideLacrosse.com as well, for IL Indoor. And I mean, that's pretty much it right now. Been doing some work here and there, especially in the beginning of the year for the PA and writing some pieces. And I'm sure that will continue in time. And then Lacrosse Culture Daily, writing by the numbers, kind of a statistical breakdown as well. So, yeah, I'm a little bit of everywhere. Maybe, you could catch me at stadiums, like as we alluded to, I traveled to 2 games this weekend. So if you see me in an arena, or if it's someone that looks like me, definitely come say hi. I'm always happy to talk with fans and whoever. And it's really great to see how many people love the game.
Well, Adam, very thankful and happy that you finally were able to jump on with us. But thanks again for joining us in the BSC. Hope to talk to you down the road and continued success with literally everything else you do in the world of podcast and in regular life. Hopefully you get a little bit of sleep here.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm running on about 8 hours of sleep now after a very fun but busy weekend of travel. And yeah, good luck to you guys and the Bandits. I don't, at least at the moment, it does not look like I was hoping I would be able to go up to Buffalo. Circumstances have kind of changed where it doesn't look like that's going to work out. I will probably not be traveling this weekend. But yeah, I hope to make it out for the finals wherever they are. And if it's in Buffalo, I will make sure to come say hi and see the whole team.
We will be there. So we will be back Thursday with our normal episode to preview Bandits versus the Warriors. We will talk to you all then.